So along the lines of ways that Baldur's Gate 3 could become a tool for your tabletop game, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and it's not a direction that I originally thought I was going to go with it, but I just see so many ways to use this. It's really exciting. If you're familiar with X-Men, they have the Danger Room, right? Where they can test out their powers and do training exercises against, supervillain level simulated threats. You can do that with Baldur's Gate 3 for your tabletop character. You can try a build, and then if it doesn't work, whereas in the game, you'd have to rewind time, or everyone would have to be cool with, are we going to replay that session or just kind of pretend it's always been this other character, it's fine. But when you can respec your character and try different builds, try different subclasses, try different multi-class combinations without having to worry about that story continuity, because Baldur's Gate's story continuity really is about the story that it presents to you as you go through it. And you can just jump right back into that immersion, even if you're playing a semi-completely new character because you switched up in the camp. It doesn't have the same feel as if you try to do that in your role-playing game. Because I think we're pushed to keep that story coherent with a full through line. And so that's tricky to do at a game table. But on your computer, a couple button clicks, right? You can actually sort of prototype a character that you want to play in a tabletop game by using Baldur's Gate to play through it, and then you can be like, oh, okay, this play style of this wizard really isn't working out for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back, maybe mess with some multi-classing, right? Add in a couple levels of a different class and see if they blend okay. Or, I tried this multi-class and it really did. I'm not liking how it worked out, so I'm going to go back and just do single class wizard and switch up the spells that I know and really play with that. Or, hey, try this different feat choice. Being able to play with that stuff without having to restart your game, or having to play through it in your actual weekly tabletop game that you're playing in, where depending on your group, maybe people are okay with takesy-backsies and do-overs, and okay, well that didn't work, let's redo that. It's a little more difficult to pull off.
I mean, even environmentally, it reminds me of what are cool environments for even myself. Of okay, I want to express this a little bit more, but as a dungeon master, I can now describe things better because they also have added so much. We've had maps of nautiloids, we've had art of nautiloid ships and mind flayer ships and all these other locations, but they have to get into extreme detail.
Oh yeah. And they have to animate it.
Yeah, right? And then animate it.
And sound design. And all of those
things. But
things.
then you have that in your head as a player and a dungeon master now. So even if you have a new player, they're having an easier time imagining this. If they have played Baldur's Gate 3, they're like, oh, I know exactly.
Exactly. It creates just this sort of multi-sensory touchstone for you to go ahead and draw on. And then if you've both played it, then you both have that same experience. You can talk about the glisten on that weird fleshy door in the nautiloid. And they can think back to that and be like, oh, right.
Yeah, even the light puzzle solving of, okay, here's a giant piece of stone held up by a rope. And you need to get down here into this dungeon, knocking that down, causing it to break. But when you're on the mind flayer ship, the nautiloid, after it's crashed, you can ignite some of the fuel. Yeah. Or whatever chemical it is on fire and kill a bunch of enemies. And there's that kind of as dungeon masters, sometimes I forget to add these things. Yeah, absolutely. And this does a great job at showcasing the environment and how the environment can really be part of the encounter. In some cases, an integral part of the encounter. It makes me sometimes wonder if I'm too soft on glass cannons in my own D&D campaign. I was playing a wild magic sorcerer, and one of the things I love the most about that is the wild magic surges are happening on my behalf. It's just handling that math for me, and it's fun to see that randomly happen. But I just kept on throwing myself into the fray because that's my main character. Sure. I'm the main character. I'm going to run into combat and just getting destroyed.
Yeah. If you're a sorcerer, that might be a little rough.
Yeah. And so the enemy choices are a little smarter than sometimes I'm just being very nice to my players and I'm not going to have all the goblins attack the caster.
Well, that's one of the things with their sort of their different difficulty levels where you can choose your experience. Is it going to be a little more story based, a little more approachable, or is it going to be no holds barred, this is for keeps, you better use your tactics to get through, and I think they call it the tactical difficulty mode. Where, they throw in all kinds of different components to a fight, like there are explosive barrels, there's environmental conditions, they might focus fire more, and that, as a DM, could give you interesting ideas of the different levers you could pull in an encounter both in setting up and designing it, and then running it at the table. So, right.
I can see myself even stealing a few of these NPCs that we run into in terms of their personality, like, because you're getting so much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's fair, right?
Yeah.
They used plenty of canonical D&D characters in the video game.
Yeah.
All's fair that we take these wonderful, vibrant characters they've created and use them as pieces as we see fit in our games.